Yeah, 7:03. Considering it's 7:03, I'll call the May 9th General Council meeting to order. Moving down the agenda to number 2, is there any conflicts of interest this evening? No? Okay. We'll head right into delegations, 3A.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask one?
Yeah.
The CEO said that we're recording.
Yeah.
Recording that, it's not on the website. What are you recording for?
It's just good practice to have recordings. over
Oh, I
meetings.
didn't know that. For how long?
Well, we've been doing it pretty much
Since
since
the start of
COVID.
COVID.
Since
Oh, okay.
COVID.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted a recording. they
It's
can-
on our website, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just thought if you put it on the website, that everybody get it. Like when we were on the telephones, everybody can go to the meeting and listen to it.
Yeah, we've been doing that, yeah,
Can you do that now? Or with the way we are now?
of course, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, because I know I had a lot of taxpayer questions.
No, that's what we've been doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, no.
yes.
No, all good.
Website. It's on there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't find it.
It's
Either on
under,
that or
it's
under our
like
YouTube.
Council agenda minutes, agendas and minutes, and it says recording of, then the date,
Yeah, but I mean, you can listen to the whole meeting.
of course, and see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thanks, guys.
No worries.
All good. All right, so we'll move to 3A, Tiffany Kichetto, KPMG, regarding the Township of Nairn and Hyman 2021 financial statements. So Tiffany's here in person with us tonight. So I'll turn it over to you to walk us through our your presentation.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so we are going to go through the financial statements, and I do know that Belinda would have provided you the statements before, but we did have a change today. So if you did spend any time looking at them, we did just have one change, and I'll walk you through what it is so that everybody knows why we changed what we changed today as we were going through the final numbers. So you would have a copy, and it is on the screen if you're following. I apologize if it's a bit small here. Okay, so the purpose of this presentation is just to highlight the results of the audit and give council a chance to ask any questions that they might have. So as of today's date, we would be issuing the financial statements in final, provided that we had council's approval. We don't have anything remaining in our audit file to wrap up or any procedures left to complete. So we're in a position that we could issue, provided that council is good to approve everything. So audit risks, so nothing you need to bring to your attention from an audit risk perspective. And of course, we do always utilize, we have to calculate materiality for the audit. So we do that by using a percentage of expenses. Why expenses? Your taxpayers are interested in what the township is spending their money on. So as a result, that's the basis that we use for materiality calculations. And then we would base it on as a percentage. So 3% of your expenses is what we tend to use. Anything over $2,300 though is a correction that if we identified an error or an adjustment over $2,300, we would be correcting that in the statements. So all of the adjustments have been corrected. So we would be providing the list of those adjustments to Belinda. So nothing's uncorrected. Council doesn't need to be aware of any adjustments that we haven't reflected in these numbers. So in terms of the procedures that are completed, the main areas of focus are always your revenues and then your operating expenses, because that operating and capital, and then your payroll, because really that makes up the majority of the spending in the year. We do complete control testing on payroll and input testing on payroll, and then we perform the remainder of the procedures substantively. So we vouch, we get confirmations, those types of things. And of course, you do have one estimate in your statements for the landfill. So the landfill closure costs are going to be paid, oh geez, I think it was 158 years that your landfill has available, which is probably the longest I've seen. So we have to project out the cost of that landfill for 158 years from now, what it'll cost you to close it and maintain that. So that's an interesting one anyway. So we go through those calculations and book the obligation based on the usage as of today's date. So how much of the landfill have you used? You then calculate what the cost is associated with that portion that has been used to date. Okay, very small, so really get your magnifying glasses out here, but this is the auditor's report. So it is in your financial statements as well. I've just copied and pasted it into here. So these financial statements are prepared in accordance with the public sector accounting standards, which are required for municipalities. We are proposing to issue an unqualified, or otherwise known as a clean audit opinion, which means that these financial statements and the note disclosures include all of the requirements of the public sector accounting standards. Okay, so on to the next page just quickly. So you see today's date, so May 9th. So assuming that council does approve the statements today, we'll issue our audit report as of today's date. The format of the audit report is consistent with what you would have seen in the prior years. I'll just have a little reminder here of the materiality that we would have used, and of course, these statements are draft until council does give them the thumbs up and approves them. And we are responsible for making sure that any subsequent events would be updated in the statements, if relevant, up until today's date. Okay, statement of management responsibility. This is something that you'll just see with any entity following public sector accounting standards. So it basically indicates that management does have an appropriate system of internal control, system of procedures in place to prepare the financial statements on an ongoing basis. We are the external auditors and come in and do the audit work, but we come in once a year. Linda has everything going for the 12 months, and we rely upon that information when we're doing our work. All right, so on to the numbers. So I would say this was a bit of a different year because there was a lot of capital going on. And because there was a lot of capital going on, there was also the temporary financing that would have been obtained in the year as well to help with the municipal portion and just the timing of cash flows associated with all of those very large payments that were required for the old Nairn Road reconstruction work. So number one, you can see that your cash balance has increased pretty significantly at the year end to just over 1.7 million. That's really a combination of two things. So number one, there was about a $1.2 million surplus in the year. We'll get to where that came from. Don't get all excited and think that there's 1.2 million to spend next year. So just hold that thought. And then also there was the construction loan in the year as well of about 900,000. That was used to purchase the $1.4 million of capital that was obtained in the year. So yes, you are left with about almost a $1 million increase in your cash balance there in the year, and that was the main driver of those three items combined together for the change. Accounts receivable. So because of all of this construction work, there is a lot of receivables and payables associated with it. So you still do have grant funding outstanding at the end of the year for the federal and provincial components of your ICP grant, which was used for the old Nairn Road construction work. So, and of course, if you're doing capital, you have a lot of HST that you're paying on the invoices at the end of the year as well, which comes back to you in the form of a rebate from the government. So your receivables are up because you had about $105,000 increase in HST receivable. And then you had about $125,000 of increased receivables from your capital grants. So that means you spent the money on the capital by the end of the year, but you're waiting because it's all claim-based for it to come in from the federal and provincial governments. So that's the main driver of the increase there. And then your taxes receivable are down just a little bit at the end of the year. That's always good because you'll see on the next slide, you do have your receivables as a percentage of your tax levy are coming down. So you did have a bit of an increase in your allowance, but you're still collecting your receivables more quickly. So we can see that just on the next page. I tried to outline where things were in the year. So you have your current year, your 1 year arrears, and your prior years. So it's really nice to see your 1 year arrears and your prior years. Good to see those coming down. Obviously, it's like anything. The older they are, the less likely you're going to be to collect them. So as you see those amounts coming down, very favorable to see that happening. did have a bit of an increase in your allowance for doubtful accounts. That's mainly, I would say, one property that you're looking to, that you're not likely going to be collecting the taxes for. So that's why you see that bit of that increase. So nice to see your taxes as a percentage of your tax levy trending downwards. So 15.6%. So that's receivables compared to your total taxation revenue. So we just look at it as a percentage to say how much is still outstanding at the end of the year. I would say my municipal clients tend to range from about, I think the lowest I have in Northern Ontario is around 8. Highest I have is upwards of 21. So you're in the middle of the range. Nice to see that trending downwards. Okay, so on to the financial liabilities section. So same story here. Your accounts payable is up. Reason for that is you have about $160,000 of payables associated with the Old Nairn project. And then just other trade payables are down slightly. So that's the main driver of the increase there. Deferred revenue. So it's down, but it's still not spent. So the ministry has a rule that with the Safe Restart dollars, if they're not yet spent at the end of this year, they require you to park it in a reserve account. So you will see it as still unspent, but it's sitting in a different account now. So it's in the accumulated surplus in a separate reserve. So there's about $24,000 of Safe Restart dollars that have not yet been spent and is sitting in reserves. Your deferred revenue obligatory reserve, so that's your gas tax dollars. So federal gas tax, if it's not yet spent, it needs to sit in that deferred account until you use it in the coming year. So that's why you see that increase there. There just wasn't eligible projects that the funding was used on, so you definitely are allowed to carry it over to the subsequent years. And your construction loan, well, that's just your temporary financing. We did add in some note disclosure that does indicate this is a temporary loan. Once the construction is all done, you're going to determine how much of that long-term financing you actually need. And at that point in time, you'll fix the terms of the debt, have that longer amortization period to pay it off. So right now we do just have information in the notes to explain that that's the case. And then finally, your solid waste management liability. That was mainly just changes in assumptions. So because we're talking 158 years into the future, because of that, a dollar today is not the same as a dollar 150 years from now. So we do have to time value the money, and we would bring it up to that value that it's going to cost you in 150 years. So this will be a fun calculation. Okay, and then finally, your capital. So capital is up to 5.26 million at the end of the year, and you spent almost 1.5 on your capital assets, and you had amortization of 288. Keep in mind, no amortization yet on the Old Nairn Road project because an asset has to be fully complete and put in use in order to amortize it. So while it's 288,000 of amortization this year, it's going to be significantly higher when you start to amortize that, but that's a non-cash expense. So this is just a little reminder of what you spent the money on. Obviously, we know where the majority of the capital was spent in the year. That does include the spending. So at year end, we did also have to accrue for the holdback. It's just what we have to do when we prepare the statements. So that was the change. If you did look at your statements before, we had to accrue the grants associated with that holdback because you get the 93.33% of the holdback in the form of the grant. Okay. So on to the statement of operations. So this is all of your transactions from January 1st of 2021 to December 31st of 2021. So number one, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of. So taxation revenue, taxation from other governments is pretty consistent, so nothing really to note there. Your province of Ontario and your government of Canada, that increase is just because of your ICP grant for your Old Nairn project. So 472,000 of provincial funding. So that's through the Canada Infrastructure Program, so the rural and northern stream. So that would have given you the funding for that capital project. Federal, so it's 33.3% provincial, 60% federal. So your 60% federal contribution was about 850,000 in the year. And then the municipality or the township kicks in that remaining amount. Your user charges, pretty consistent, nothing really to note there. And then your other income, I just wanted to highlight what's in there is anytime you have any of your land sales, so the property sales, the proceeds is sitting in there. And you actually did also have a fair bit of building permit revenue, which is what we're seeing with most municipalities this past year as well, to increase that revenue stream as well. So how did you spend the 2.8 million? Well, expenses have actually decreased because the majority of your revenue increase was for capital. So capital isn't recorded in these figures, it's included in the assets. So also wanted to note too that your actual spending is 2% less than what you budgeted for. So and I'll show you how that worked out. Your general government is down a fair bit in the year. That's just as a result of lower tax write-offs in the current year and lower legal fees. So, and then the remainder of the amounts, for the most part, pretty consistent year over year. Not really much to note there. But I think for council, this is probably the sheet that you would prefer to have a peek at, because this takes what we have in the statements and compares it to what your budget says. So you would approve the budget that includes all of your capital purchases. You don't, and you don't really approve amortization because it's a non-cash expense. So this tells you that when you start to look at where things were sitting, that you were under budget a fair bit, mainly because your original budget included more capital costs associated with the Old Nairn Road project. So you're about $1.3 million underspent in the capital there. There wasn't really a whole lot else to really note there. Just that the underspending in transportation. Now, the other thing that I just want to highlight, and that's on, it's just on this one, and we'll go back to the other slide in a second. So this is what takes your surplus and reconciles it to what's actually sitting in your accumulated surplus. So you had 1.3 million sitting in your surplus. You adjust your capital items, and so you actually just had a surplus of just over $1 million at the end of the year. Now the caveat is you also had a $900,000 construction loan. So the question is going to be, when it's all said and done, how much debt is the township actually going to take on for this project? Not sure what that amount is going to be. So theoretically, we could have a surplus, $1 million surplus this year. And then by the time you figure out how everything's going to settle, you might then have a drawdown on your surplus. The good news is you can see from this previous page here, all of your surplus is sitting in this row right here. So you can see the increase there of the $1 million. So all that would happen is when the construction loan comes down and whatever happens, all it ends up being is a transfer between those two accounts right there. So it could be that you're saying more is funded in your capital, less in your unrestricted amounts. The other thing to note too is that you also did have about a $100,000 increase to your reserves in the year as well. So you're now sitting at about $733,000 in your reserves set aside by council as well. So I mean, a very, very solid financial position when you start to look through everything in the year, which I think is great to see. And then this last page here was just the statement of changes in net financial assets. So really, you remained pretty consistent because your debt was taken on to fund your capital items. So I know that was a lot of talking for me, so I'm gonna take a pause and ask anybody if they have any questions or if they'd like me to go over anything in more detail.
Go for it.
Thank you, Tiffany, that was lovely. I just had a comment and a couple of questions.
Sure.
My comment is to the administration for doing a bang up job because this financial audit looks great. And so my other question to you, Tiffany, is last year, and even the year before, we had a different format of the presentation of this. And one thing that I really liked that I didn't see this year was we had, like, say, our fire services or recreation or whatever the department might be, even roads, right? And we had a graph that was like a bar chart, and it showed how we compared to other communities.
Yes.
I heard you briefly say that we're in a very
Yeah.
good position,
Yeah.
but if you could just, maybe I could get your thoughts on, because I'm sure you do many communities, on how we're comparing to our neighbors. Not that it's really important, but I do like to know.
No, absolutely. And you know what? I do apologize for that. We do have some of that comparative analysis. And you know what I can do is I will get it ran tomorrow, and then I'll send it along to Belinda so she can share it with everybody as well.
And it's no rush. but
Oh,
thank you.
no, it's easy enough for us to do. I would say that they do a number of municipalities right along the same size
Yes.
as you, in that
Yes.
kind of, the budget of between, 3 to 8 sort of million in a year. And I would say that you would honestly be one of the stronger municipalities for a few reasons. So number one, you have an accumulated surplus, which not everybody would. You're still, even with the changes that you've taken on this year, so we can see right here, just so that you'll see what I mean here. You're in a net financial asset position right here. So a number of municipalities as well, because they have not been set up well for capital work. When stuff has happened, they've needed to go out and take a loan every single time. So they're getting very close to closer to their repayment limits, and that net financial assets is actually in the net financial debt situation, right? And from a cash flow perspective, up to 1.7 million, and fairly good. I mean, your receivables in the 328, all it is government grants and HST. So I mean, pretty sure you're going to collect from the government. They haven't not paid you at this point, so you have good collection of your receivables. I think all that you need to just keep on doing, monitor your taxes receivable, keep that current portion trending downwards. Older they get, less collectible they are, and do exactly what you did with the reserves. So even in a year where you were doing a massive amount of capital, still set 100,000 away to have for future purposes. So those are all good things in my books.
One more quick question, Mr. Chair. So the net financial assets, that number, if that's a negative, does that mean we're running a deficit?
Yes, because then that number will be negative, and then within this number here, within the 6.2 million, you're not going to have this sort of scenario that you have.
Right.
So
Okay.
you have this positive,
Yes.
yeah, you won't have that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tiffany, for your time also. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I got a couple of, you answered most of my questions.
Sure,
anyway.
yeah.
About the $1 million in reserves there, and that was my question, to where it is coming from.
Yeah.
I would, if you had like in your copy with reserves there, if you had your highlight there telling us where it comes from, it'd be a lot easier for me on that page or another page beside it or something.
Yeah.
Because you got $1 million there, and then down further, you've got 59,000. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah. So and when you think of this whole note right here, where all of this comes from is your surplus in the current year. And it's, for lack of a better term, kind of sliced and diced in the various buckets. So in this section that you have here, we would never put anything in there that hasn't been approved by council previously. So that's the council has approved these to be used for this purpose. The ones at the top, we know what you spent on capital, so we know what portion of your surplus has to sit in there. The catch-all, the remainder, sits in that other line. So that's where the kind of the remainder of it will go. Yeah. So you go where you know the approvals have been received, where you've spent the money, and then the rest of the surplus. Just like in a for-profit company, it sits in retained earnings until the end of the time, until it's spent in a dividend. Yours sits in surplus right there and can be used as a starting point for your budget in the coming year.
One more question.
Sure.
Omer's there. In your report, you always put 2 employees. There's 4 employees in the Omer's program.
Okay. We'll make that
Sorry.
update then. Oh, that's okay. No, that's an easy fix. We'll get that, we will get that. Yep, yeah, I see what you mean. Yep, I'll get that updated.
Any other comments, questions?
Awesome job. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good to stop
Yeah.
sharing. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. That was awesome.
You too, Linda. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we'll move to accept it now. So moved by Councilor McDonald, seconded by Councilor Despatie. Resolved that the consolidated financial statements for the corporation of the Township of Nairn and Hyman for the year ended December 31st, 2021, as presented to council on May 6th. Okay. May 9th, 2022, be accepted as presented. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so we'll move on to 3B now. Amy Macy, Chair of the Community Parks and Recreation Committee. Amy?
Do you want me to stay?
Oh, whatever, all
Wherever you
good,
like.
wherever
Come
you
to the
want.
podium. Make it official. My back hurts, that's why I'm moving.
Oh, you gotta stay sitting down if you want.
What's that?
You gotta stay sitting down if you want to be back.
Oh. So Saturday, we had our second annual cleanup Nairn and Hyman. No one signed up from Sand Bay, so I just had people clean up in the area they were kind of from. So we had about half the number of people from last year, but we cleaned up 3 times more of the garbage. So it was pretty exciting. And people are starting to kind of catch on. They're excited. People are realizing we're probably going to do it every year. Tim Hortons and McCarrow donated coffee and hot chocolate and donuts. And that was pretty exciting to show up. And it's not fun to spend a beautiful Saturday morning cleaning, but it was it was a really nice sense of community, and free coffee and donuts always help. So that was good, and I think he'll do it again. We had a free barbecue for people that helped, but that was most of the people were there. So I mean, throughout the day, we probably had about 25 people. We didn't waste anything because sometimes we overcook and then we're giving away food. There wasn't any of that this time. We had 2 gentlemen from the pickleball group in Espanola. They're currently trying to get pickleball courts, so they're actually pretty excited that we have pickleball lines on our rink. And 2 of those guys came, and there was probably a small group of 6 people playing with them, but they were new to pickleball. They liked it. The little glitch we have is we're trying to figure out how to have people have access to the equipment, and we're kind of worried about vandalism. We have 2 sets of like nets and rackets and balls, and they're worth about like $150, maybe a little bit more, 170 each set. So we're just trying to figure out how people can use it and access it. Kids have been playing basketball in there as well. Next year, I think the one thing I would try differently is maybe do it the week before Mother's Day, because I think a lot of people travel on that weekend. But it was great weather and it was perfect. The grass wasn't too high, and so you could see a lot more from the previous. Anyway, I was happy with it.
That's, we had an Easter party, the week before Easter. I had to leave town all of a sudden for family issues and a lot of people stepped in to help. We only had 7 kids attend that party. We do kind of think many people had COVID in their houses. And so everybody was staying home or they were nervous of COVID. I don't really know. We had lots of teenage volunteers too, because everyone needs service hours. So that's actually, the kids love coming. You know, Jack loves to come. And
He really likes that.
yeah, it's kind of a social thing for our teenagers, even though it's really a kid party, they like it too, right? Again, small in numbers, but everyone had fun. We're meeting Thursdays at 4 for the kids. It's kind of like a little after school program. So we're doing pickleball or whatever sports they want to do. We might be going down to the baseball fields. They're talking about doing kickball. So the kids are all generally on one bus together and they talk about it. They kind of decide who's going to go. We've got a list of different things. We would like to be able to use the rink shack and then even sell snacks. We're hoping if enough people are interested to even extend it to like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. That's big goals. We'll see. We'll see if the kids keep going. So technically on our rink, we can have like ball hockey, basketball, and pickleball. And if people keep getting excited about pickleball, I would really encourage us to put like white concrete paint lines on. So if we did like 2 basketball keys and then the pickleball lines, and then when we put ice in, it's just going to be covered up and we kind of put the lines. Well, we actually don't put hockey lines.
No.
on. We do the curling lines.
Yeah.
Which, anyway. Garden boxes, Evelyn Deagle and I just painted them today. I think I have stain in my hair. Yeah, and so the garden boxes are painted. They're gonna get moved to right near the rink, the site that you guys approved. We have a plan for soil. We have the lattice spot, so that can be attached on the bottom. We have landscape fabric all ready to go. So that's gonna be ready to go and probably be done by Friday. We have 3 people signed up. Derek even figured out, Derek's been really helpful to use, you know, the runoff from the rink roof into a rain barrel and you get an attachment. So super eco-friendly, it's free, it's easy. So we're pretty excited about that. The last thing is hanging baskets. Sign up now if you want one, where we can get almost identical to last year. We, Dawn Martell welded up hangers for the telephone poles. I just have to get approval for that. I haven't done that yet. And we have to get new shepherd hooks. The shepherd hooks last year were horrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
Just
so,
saying.
so there was one that was $6. I'm looking again. There's one, it has like a 1-star rating, and then there's one for $7 and it has a 5-star rating. So I don't know what I'm gonna do, like take like a heavy weight and test it out, or because the next one up after that is like $16. But anyway, the shepherd's hooks that were made for the telephone poles are super sturdy and will last forever. Anyway, that's it for me. Do you guys have any comments, concerns, things?
Jackie, go.
Sorry. I just was wondering if we could send Dawn a thank you from the town. Building up those thanks for us. Thank you for all you're doing. It's awesome. And,
Would you like me to send a thank you note? How do you want to do that? Or you want the town? What do you think is appropriate?
I don't know. This is
We could, maybe on behalf of the recreation committee or and council, yeah.
Like just a card, or you want a gift card, or
Yeah, let's give them a gift card.
for Tim's?
Timmy's.
I mean, who doesn't love?
The Timmy's gift card, exactly.
I technically don't have budget for that.
There,
You have to
I'll
approve.
I'll give you, how much you want? for it? I'll donate it.
All right, 20,
20?
is good. Done.
All right.
I only don't have, I usually have tons of money, but because the budget's not passed yet.
Yeah,
right?
we're working on that.
There we go. I guess we don't need a motion.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Thank you, Dean.
She does a lot of work there.
now we'll have to send
Oh,
him
she
a thank
does.
you card.
Yeah, I was gonna say. we need to send you
I'll
that.
walk in and
That's
ask.
what-
How much is that?
Pass it around to her.
I just, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
I just had a comment, Amy, and I've already said it to you before, but thank you so much for what you're doing. You're bringing the community together. It's wonderful. People are out and about. There's things to do, things to talk about. You're beautifying the community, and it's all thanks to you. And I thank you very much for all your hard work.
I really like it. It's
Excellent.
not horrible. I
Mhm.
mean, we're talking about kids that are just kind of bored
stuff.
and would like to have something to go to. And I think there's more we can do, right? I think Nairn's a great place. People have really generous hearts. There's a lot we can do. We just have to maybe get a little organized, right? Like, I'm not saying none of us are organized, but I think, just, it's one step at a time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Council.
Thanks, Amy. Okay. So I guess we'll move on to 4. Discussions arising from previous council minutes. We can, if anyone wants to see them, we can circulate them quick before we pass them. Yeah, I think everyone had trouble accessing them through their laptops. But if there's anything.
I'm okay. I don't have to see them, but
No, I don't have to see it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going with my notes.
So moved by Councillor Deputy, seconded by Councillor McDonald, resolved that the following council minutes be accepted as presented. A, regular council meeting minutes, April 11th, 2022. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving on to 6, minutes and reports. Just to note them as accepted. But if there's any comments on 6A, Ontario Clean Water Agency, March 2022 work order summary report. Just stop me whenever. 6B, Township of Nairn Hyman CO report number 2022-20 regarding draft RFP for the Integrity Commissioner Services. We have a motion on that later on, but yeah.
Discuss after.
Yeah, we can discuss after. So I guess we'll note them as received and then we can discuss. There's motions here. So moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Despatie, resolved that the following minutes and reports 6A to E are noted as received. A, Ontario Clean Water Agency, March 2022 work order summary report. B, Township of Nairn Hyman CEO report number 2022-20 regarding draft RFP for Integrity Commissioner Services. C, Township of Nairn Hyman CO report number 2022-21 regarding municipal office hours. D, Township of Nairn Hyman Fire Chief report, May 5th, 2022. E, Clash Foothills Municipal Association approved meeting minutes of December 6th, 2022. All in favor? That carries. So now I guess I'll open it up to any comments on 6A, no comments. 6B, any comments? Councillor Jingo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My comment on this is, I might not, because, anyway, I feel, in my opinion, we could choose like I believe the CAO, the report is looking for a time frame that we may want to hire an integrity commissioner for. So I would like us, in my opinion, to use the smallest length of term that we can, only because it's an election year. And if we choose 5 years to commit a person to, it doesn't give the next council an opportunity to do anything with that. So I would suggest that we go with the shortest length of time that we can for the RFP. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I agree with that.
I agree, because also noting the problems that we had in the past, we don't know what this new integrity commissioner is going to be how well they're gonna be suited to the community. So a shorter term, because if they're good, we'll just, or the next council might
Yeah,
be able to review.
We're gonna be better than the last one, that's for sure.
I
Yeah.
just have one more question,
ahead.
Mr. Chair. Through you to the CAO, Mr. Chair. What is our contract like now presently? Like, do we have a term in the contract or is it just standing as is?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. We don't have actually a contract in place.
Oh,
We
okay.
have a resolution accepting them, their services. Standard, if we decide to change, normally a standard time period to give notice would be 3 months. So, once we decide on to move forward with the RFP, that, once we have a chosen one, we would have to give notice. That's just standard procedure, even without a contract. So, but we don't have any time period.
Okay.
In place.
Thank you. Thank you, Belinda. Thank you, Mr.
and,
Chair.
and the lowest, term was 2 years, correct? Or what, from what you saw?
It could be actually anything that you wanted, but most of the more widely used integrity commissioners generally are asking for a term of at least 2 years. We could ask for 1 year, but that probably would limit who would take the time because it's a lengthy
Mhm.
process. It would probably limit who would be interested in taking on.
Okay, so, if everyone's comfortable, we'll put in 2 years and we'll put a call
okay
out
with
for
2
2 years.
Oh,
That's-
oh, sorry. another thing.
Yeah.
Something too that I noticed some of them were doing it. They added in a renewal that council had the option for renewing. So some of them have, okay, you can renew twice for 1 year periods if council is favorable with it. That's what some people are doing too. So that way, if you're happy, you have that, okay, so we have an option for renewal, and then you go back in to see if they'll accept the terms.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll put 2 in there. So, moved by Councillor Despatie, second by Councillor McDonald, be it resolved that the CAO's report number 2022-20 be received for information. Further, that council directs that a term of 2 years for integrity commissioner services be included in the RFP. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 6C, regarding municipal office hours. Is there any comments on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I like to leave the way it is, to make the 4:30. Because people getting off work and that, if they get off and planning, give them more time to come to the office, do their business thing.
Okay.
Employees requesting.
Till, for what's on the, what's on here. So Monday to Friday, 9 to 12, and then 12:30 to 4 PM. Yeah.
I had a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
If we close the door at 4 and the staff is still working until 4:30, do we take phone calls? We do, okay.
Yeah.
And answer emails and whatever, like things, just the, front. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Chair. Through you. Yeah, of course, we're still working. What
Okay.
we're finding is right now we're open from 12:30 till 4. And of course, we're working the whole day, other than 12 to 12:30 for lunch. What we're finding is a lot of people, and of course, we're here to serve the residents and the public, but they're showing up at 1 minute to 4, and then we're having people in till 20 after 4. So it gives us that time to help the last person before more people come in. So also it gives us a chance to finalize our bank deposits and finish off any outstanding work we have for the day. It just gives us that half an hour just to concentrate on perhaps a report that has to be in by the end of the day. That's what we're requesting. Obviously, it's council's decision.
Well, if the employees have encountered historically what you described, then the hours that would be better would be the ones you're suggesting. So,
That's for the staff, but not for the taxpayers.
Just having business in town as well. You've got those 1 minute to 4 people, I close at 4. And if there's many days I'm open till 10:20 after 4 o'clock, trying to serve the customer. And they do it religiously, like they just, I made it. Oh my God, the hair's on fire and it's 4:59, so, or 3:59. So I understand completely the need to finish up and do your things before you close and, you know, get home for on a timely manner.
I'll put it to a vote, I guess. So moved by Council McDonald, second by Council Diapati, be it resolved that the CAO's report number 2022-21 be received for information. And further that council directs the municipal office hours are as follows: Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. All in favor? 12:30 to 4 p.m. All in favor?
I'll respect council decision,
Carried.
but I get phone call up when it sounds pretty.
Well, I'm gonna send them right back to you, counselor.
And I just had one more to see.
Yeah.
I get lots of complaints about when they call the office, they get the answer machine all the time. Is there a time trip when you get back to them? Is it, you know, like they complain that they call and they gotta wait for an answer? Isn't there a policy that 10 minutes or? Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I haven't heard that complaint before, but we do only have one line coming into the office. We don't have a hold where we see another line coming in. So when we're doing business on the phone, if we're on the phone, it goes right to the voicemail. So on our answering machine, we actually don't have a policy in place about how soon we get back to people, but on our answering machine, we always say we get back to you as soon as possible or in at least 1 business day. So, and emails, I think we're actually doing amazing, and we actually got several compliments today about how fast we work. So, I apologize to residents if they are going to voicemail, but if they leave a message, we almost always get back to them within an hour. But we do say 1 business day.
At least now I know what, explain to them.
Yeah.
if I can add a comment, I've called before I became a counselor. I called and several times, probably half a dozen times in the past 6 months, and only once did I go to voicemail, and within a couple hours it was so again, I was always very satisfied.
I usually just call back 10 or 20 minutes later. So.
That's what I do too.
Okay, so is there any comments on 6E? There's no motions for the fire chief report, or 6E, the La Cloche Foothills Municipal Association, December 6th minutes. Yeah, Councilor Diga.
I just had a comment on the fire chief's report, and I thought regarding the local people burning during daylight hours, and I think I mentioned this, but I think with our new app, we can tell folks that they can't, because if they're not coming in for a permit anymore, then you don't really get that list of rules and things like that. So if we could do a flyer or do something just to remind the folks that they can't burn in the day and that these are the hours. And yeah, maybe use our new little app thing to tell people that too, because we'll have that free soon too, right? So those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right. 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. You are right, because it said daylight hours, it's still daylight. from 7 to 7.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I don't want to get cold on. Thank you.
Any other comments on those, either of those items? Good. Okay. We'll move on to 7. correspondences. So we have two there. This is just to note them as received, and then we can go into discussion. So moved by Councillor Despatie, second by Councillor McDonald, resolved that correspondences 7A to B be noted as received. All in favor? Carried. Now we have 7A, Ivan Shomont, Aggie Lake Property Group regarding council meeting of April 11th, 2022. Is there any comments on that? I have a quick clarification for Mr. Shomont about the documents that were passed on about, it also corresponds with or correspondence 7B tonight. And from my understanding, council can also talk from their personal experience. From my understanding, those documents were placed on the councilors' tables before the meeting, and no one knew what they were. And I agree with you, what you said in the letter, that it should have been procured through the CAO, and that's not our normal practice. And I, as far as I know, no one looked at them. I'm not sure if you guys looked at Sylvia Burden's packaging when she put it
No,
on
I
the
just
table.
looked at it and said it wasn't on the agenda, so I didn't read it.
Right, okay. So that was my point of clarification on your letter. But if there's any other comments on Mr. Shomont's letter, I'll open the floor.
I didn't even see one. I don't think I know. There's one over here.
That was right in between.
In between us, yeah.
And I thought it was
I
yours.
thought it was yours.
I know.
I didn't touch it, so I didn't receive anything.
Yes, the only reason I raised it is because we have to go through all those procedures. Look at it before we get to. In this case here, appeals, because you know. Without documentation, we were privileged to see it. Our lawyer has, our planner has. I'm afraid when you read the document from the viruses, you read a portion. They had appealed prior to.
I didn't read the documents. Is that what you said, Mr.
No,
Showalter?
I believe that you did read the document.
No, but I
because
didn't.
You related to something that wasn't in that document. I might be wrong. I'm just saying, that was my impression, and not just mine. There's other people who looked at this meeting. Within our group, same thing. We had an executive meeting with the board on Sunday. We went through the whole meeting. We went through what was missing, wrong. So when you're in an appeal process beyond the municipality has entered the appeal process as well, because they've sent documents. And then we come back to a meeting after the fact when this is at a much higher level. And now we're still talking about something that has been talked about for the last 5 years. You know, it's not something new. These appeals have been for the last 5 years. We have a membership. We have over 100 and some odd people. We have a voting process. We're a corporation. And our voting process was 99% in favor of everything that we've done. And we've got a document. We even had lawyers take the ballots because we didn't want to get involved. You know, so we followed all the protocols, we followed all the procedures, and to look at what's happening behind the fact is not right. So I just wanted to make it clear to you. That's why I sent you that letter. You know, I think it was wrong. And I think there's a learning to be done by it. And I think you've got it, because obviously the documents, I don't think the documents got anyplace else. So, and that's all I'm. I just want to make sure. Because we're not gonna go up there and have people come behind us. walking.
No, totally understood. Counselor?
I just wanted to confirm expressively that I did not read those documents when they were placed on my table at that meeting. If someone was sitting beside me, maybe I had something else there, but I did not read those documents, and I'm not a liar. So I did not read those documents.
I'm not calling you that. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is documents, I had a copy of that document. The reading that came out was similar to the document, so I'm not calling anybody anything. I'm just saying, if it's a coincidence, it's a coincidence, but it was, to me, it didn't fall in the documents.
Mr. Chair, thanks for letting me rebuttal. Mr. Shoma, I've spoken with folks that are opposed to what's going on up there. Contact me, they're allowed to call me, I'm their counselor, I represent them. And so anything that they may have said to me, if it was written in those documents, then yes, maybe I've had a conversation with them. And when I sit here and speak, I'm speaking on behalf of them. So that if they've told me something and then it happened to be in that document, that could happen, absolutely, because they call me constantly, not so much anymore. But before all of this came to a head at the council meeting. And so if you felt that my words looked like something in the document, it might have, because if they wrote it, they're the ones calling me, speaking to me. And I'm just representing them with my words. So, you know, if you want to call it a coincidence, you can, but I just want to ensure you, and I want you to know, I did not, that's violating protocol for me to read something that someone brings me to the audience, from the audience prior to a meeting. Anything goes through the CAO. I've been a counselor for many years, and I know that protocol, and I follow that protocol. I even follow the protocol to the point where even just a moment ago, I shouldn't be rebuttaling the audience with comments, and I asked permission to rebuttal the audience at the last meeting, as I did just now. And so I follow protocol, and I know that I'm not going to read anything that anybody hands me here. It has to go through the CAO and then come to my agenda, or however the CAO cares to deal with it. So I hope you're satisfied with that answer from me. That I didn't.
No, I have no issues with that part. I understand. Okay, like I said, it's a coincidence as far as I can see.
Mhm.
So that, I'm okay with that. I
Okay,
don't have a
thank you.
problem with that part.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I just, sorry, continue?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just, regarding the letter, the one point about, I think Mr. Shoma was asking us a question. See if I can touch that, I can. And all I wanted to say about our bylaws is that a bylaw, I don't have the official municipal act description of a bylaw, but I did call to find out and did some research. So a bylaw is a resolution of council, and it can be amended or repealed at council's discretion. And so if we own the documents, and I want to put own in quotes, just that word, like we don't own anything. It's words on paper, but they do belong to the township. But a bylaw is something that council, it's a resolution of council is what a bylaw is, and they can be amended and repealed whenever council wishes, and a majority of us wish to do that. And thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I had. That was my comment. If you're, I don't know if you're responding to the letter, if we're going to, but those would be
Yeah,
my
well,
thoughts.
so that was my next point. So I had brought this to council just because Mr. Shoma was requesting an official document from the township. And obviously I wanted to bring it to council to discuss and not send it off on my own, or not send it off on my own. So his request under the, if you've read the letter, was an official document from council stating that we own bylaws. But once again, it's up to council whether we want to decide to respond to him officially or not. But that's open for discussion.
Well, it's, if I would agree with what happened here tonight, fine, but if he wants it, still wants it, I would say we have to give it to
Agreed.
him.
Well, yeah, I guess we might as well send him an official stating, I don't like the word own or ownership, but stating that it is a resolution, the bylaw is a resolution of council.
Okay.
That's,
So just to add to that, okay, so the reason I've asked for that.
Yeah.
Is I've done research too, so the city of Sudbury owns the gardens. That's theirs, it's not, we didn't spend $1.2 million to write a document that was on the table of the last meeting. Because we felt that we should write that document. That document was compiled of all the bylaws, all the studies that we had to do. That's why we spent $1.3 million. So when the vote was on for that document, it was a document that was compiled, but it was compiled because the council wanted us to do all of these studies and everything else in order to get approval to move forward to a subdivision. So that was my point. It
well, and that bylaw was passed in,
was passed in June of last year.
correct, yeah.
But yet, at the last meeting, when it came up, some people thought, well, we're not voting on that document because it's not our document. It wasn't the township's document.
Right, no, I understand what you're saying.
It
But
was
last meeting, we weren't voting on the bylaw. The bylaw had already passed. Last meeting, we were voting to send representation.
That's right.
Right.
But that document was all in your bylaws. In that document, for us to get approval to move forward, to get subdivisions, we had to meet all your bylaws. And we did. And we spent all that money doing it. And that document that was there last week was basically your document that says that the township owned the bylaws. We had to abide by them. That was my point. I don't know where it went, but, you know. So that's why I just wanted clarity on who is responsible for the bylaws. It's not Agnew Lake Property Group that makes bylaws. It's not Agnew Lake Property Group that enforces bylaws or anything else. We don't do nothing. We just fill the document process.
That's what I said the last meeting. It's our bylaw, and we should defend it.
Mr. Chair, I was vocal enough at the last meeting. I don't know if I really like own the bylaw, but yeah, they are ours. If town council sees that all the requirements have been met and they put their stamp on it, it's our bylaws. It's not the town of Espinola's bylaws, it's our bylaws.
So maybe the wording is the issue here.
Right.
So my suggestion would be bylaws are developed by the council, by the township. They're developed. You guys have planners that develop the bylaws, and we abide by the bylaws. And if we want to do anything to move forward to do anything, we've got to go in the bylaws, and we got to draft
Absolutely.
everything out of it, and we got to work.
Absolutely.
That's my point.
So I have here that council would direct the CEO to respond to Mr. Showman regarding the bylaw. Is that fair enough? Okay, so moved by Council McDonald, seconded by Councillor Despatie, whereas correspondence has been received from the president of the Agnew Lake Property Group regarding the council meeting of April 11th, 2022, and be it resolved, the council directs the CAO to respond to Mr. Chaumont regarding the bylaw. All in favor? Carried. Now, the other correspondence, it's quite lengthy, so if there's any comments, I don't think there will be, but 7B, any comments on that? No. Counselor?
Yeah, I just had one comment, and it was, I really didn't read it in depth, I shouldn't say that, but I did read the highlighted sections. And there was a letter that Mr. Chaumont wrote to his membership stating, and I think Councillor DePetty had said it last time when, at the last meeting, that everybody will, I can't find it right now, but I know I read it, that everybody will on Lakeview have access to Lakeview Road. And I don't know if it's part of the bylaw, because I haven't seen the original, but I'm okay with that. I don't know if the appealants know that those words are in documents, but I was happy to see that. I know it's not, complete yet.
Yeah.
But it was good to see the willingness and the intent to give everybody road access, because that's what it's about, or that's what they keep telling me it's about. So, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my comment.
Sean?
Well, we had meetings, I had meetings with these. Some addendum to that was written out to the township.
Yeah.
Prior to that meeting, stating that it was written in there that they had to agree that we would not subject them to any some entrance to any of them. I had that conversation with the appellants at the meeting. Satisfied with. So that's all I could.
And that's, yeah, that's in that there.
That's
Yeah,
what it is, and unfortunately, those properties on that side, bought prone land, road access.
Yeah.
Impact has now picked up, and they've got road access. So
Yeah.
imagine what's gonna happen to their taxes.
that's up for the next step to decide, I guess.
I just have another quick question or maybe comment. I just noticed that I read it in the minutes of the group's meeting. And I was just wondering, because they are a group in the community, if they would be interested in sending us their minutes for our agenda so we can see what's going on up there. We could bring that to the membership. We're not willing to do that.
hear.
Oh, no?
Oh, to get your group's minutes on our agenda, just so we can have a look at them. That's something you guys are willing to do. Obviously, you're not pressured to do it or anything, but.
No pressure. It's just a
No,
question.
I would have to put it through a membership.
Right, yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, for sure.
Understandable.
I'm willing to do that.
I just noticed that that's where I saw the line about everybody will have road access was in the minutes right here.
Yeah.
All lots will have road frontage on existing road, and that was from the April 30th, 2019 minutes from the group. So I just thought if you want to send us our minutes, I think, well, I know I would appreciate it anyway, and then we can see what's going on up there. But that's up to you and your membership. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Okay, so we'll move on. If there's no other comments, we'll move on to number 8.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Chaumont.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, 8A, Municipality of Grey Highlands regarding HST rebate on new homes in Ontario. Any comments on that before we pass the motion or go to the motion? Moved by Councillor DePatie, second by Councillor McDonald, that the Corporation of the Township of Nairn and Hyman endorses and supports the resolution of the Municipality of Grey Highlands requesting the federal government increase the amount of $450,000 of fair market value of a house to allow for the HST rebate on new homes to reflect today's housing costs. and that a copy of this motion be sent to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Premier Doug Ford, and the federal and provincial finance ministers, the municipality or Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, AMO, and the municipality of Grey Highlands. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on, bylaws 9A, bylaw number 2022-9, being a bylaw to provide for paying remuneration to members of council of the corporation of the Township of Nairn. Comments on that?
I'm happy with what I'm getting now, but the rest of the month. I looked at some of them, we're in our size of our town, we're above average. What we get paid. Because I know Gore Bay is a lot bigger than us, and they're making a lot less than we are.
Any other comments before we go?
Are there any changes?
I just have a quick clarification.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. If you remember, approximately 2 months ago, we passed a motion that was based on a report I wrote about the CPI index and the cost of living allowance. And if you remember, we passed a motion of the 3.4% increase, and it was for all pay like all across all wage grids and for council. So this bylaw is just a reflection of that resolution.
Oh, I thought it was just for the staff. I misunderstood that.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, I remember passing the goal up for council as well. So I guess we'll, no comments? Okay, so moved by Councillor Zinger, second by Councillor Boyer, that being a bylaw to provide for paying remuneration to members of council of the corporation of the Township of Nairn and Hyman be read first, second, and third time, and finally passed in open council, and its number shall be 2022-9. All in favor? Carried. Okay. So now we'll move on to 11 for information only. A, Joseph Burke, Township of, or Town Clerk Manager, Planning Services, regarding the Rural Transportation Initiative for the Kosh Foothills. I have a comment on that. I had attended that meeting, and Espanola, with in conjunction with the La Cloche Foothills community, is looking at some sort of transportation to go from Espanola to Sudbury 3 days a week, for whether that's hospital visits or appointments, stuff like that. More geared towards seniors, but it would start in Sable Spanish River and pick people up there, go to Espanola, then Baldwin, then here, then off to Sudbury for I think 3 or 4 hours. And yeah, it was a good presentation, and Espanola is spearheading it, and it would be a good addition to our services we can offer here, and very small cost. I think it was 10 or 20 bucks round trip from Espanola to Sudbury. So yeah, that was kind of my update, but the whole presentation was, yeah.
Sure. Is that our cost or the cost?
Yes, at the cost of the rider of the bus, yeah,
Okay.
but it would be, their town of Espanola is looking into lots of funding for it, because they gotta buy a bus and they gotta promote it and do that, so they're the ones that'll be looking into government funding for it all.
Well, that means just a Sudbury, or saying that we had to go to Espanola for appointments?
Yeah, there was another service, I think, on 2 days a week would be Nairn to Espanola, or pick up in Baldwin, and then also Sable Spanish River to Espanola.
That's what my concern is, that being a senior, that my wife, she's not allowed, she wouldn't be driving no more. If something happened to me, and I don't want to remain in there until, I can't just look after myself at all, but my driver's license might be taken away from me someday, I won't be able to drive, or my health with bad. And that's a big concern, because I don't want to move to a home unless I have to. I live in there all my life, I want to stay.
Exactly.
I think it's amazing program. I hope it looks good. And I really love that their senior age is 55 and up. And I really like that. I'm past that, but you know, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so that, yeah, it was a good presentation for sure. So I guess if there's any other comments on the for information only stuff. Okay, moved by Councillor Boyer, second by Councillor Gingras. Be it resolved that for information items only 11A to A be noted as received. All in favor? Carries. Okay. So now we will motion to go into closed session. So moved by Councillor Boyer, second by Councillor Gingras. Be it resolved, the council return. Oh. Should go into closed session. I just have returns. Oh, right there. Okay, moved by Councillor Gingras, second by Councillor Boyer. Resolved, the council moves into closed session at 8:19 for the purpose stated in section 339.2 of the Municipal Act. Information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board of Canada, a province or territory, or a crown agency of any of them. All in favor? Carried.
Will you sit here, Mr. Chair? Do you want to close the door?
Yeah, that's fine. Just stay here. So there was discussions held on information that was provided to the township in confidence from the local board by Canada, province or territory, or any crown agency. So we'll move on now to the confirmatory bylaw, moved by Councillor Gingras, second by Councillor Boyer, that being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the corporation and the township of Nairn, Hyman be read first, second, and third time, and finally pass an open council, and its number shall be 22-10. Favor? Carried. And last one, moved by Councillor Boyer, second by Councillor Gingras, that the meeting of May 9th, 2022 do now adjourn at 8:25 PM and to meet again on the 13th day of June or call of the mayor. And discussions, I guess we can stop there.